Welcome back to Lenz Comic Corner Classic/Non-Classics. This is episode number 2139 and Doubleshot 2033. Got two Marvel trades. First, the collect issues came back in 1991. And one of the people who worked in this book left to form Image Comics, basically, with the conclusion of this run. We have X-Force Epic Collection Volume 1, Under the Gun. This collects the first 15 issues of the X-Force series, along with the first annual, an issue from Spider-Man, and Wolverine Volume 254. I'll get to basically the whole thing with the Spider-Man issue here, issue 16. The first issue. Now, Lin Carr himself had did a review of this thing several years ago, and according to what I heard, this first issue sold 1 million copies when it was released. Yeah, pretty much in the way it's like just basically the next day for X-Force after basically they were New Mutants, they became X-Force and New Mutants 100, which was the final issue of the series at that point in time, until 2003 when the book was brought back briefly as an ongoing series for 13 issues, ended and then brought back again in 2009, lasted 50 issues, ended and brought back recently and still ongoing this very day. So, yeah, you basically have Rob Liefeld as the writer and artist issues, with Fabian to see as a co-plotter. Todd McFarlane does the Spider-Man issue. I'll get to why it's here. With Gavin Curtis and Dan Slott. You're thinking, Dan Slott? You mean the guy who did the long-run Amazing Spider-Man? Yes. Probably him during his early years. Todd McFarlane does some artwork here with this issue with Derek Robinson, Mark Pachita, Greg Capullo, early time for him. Terry Shoemaker, I don't think Schumacher. Mike Mignola, Gavin Curtis, and Shada Perua. This might surprise you. Rob Liefeld does his own inking too with Todd McFarlane. Now, the cross issue 16 comes issue 3. Mostly put with the first issue of X-Force. Now, according to Liefeld, he had this thing where Cable would not show up with the same look every issue. According to him, the reason why he did that was because he took inspiration from George Perez. When George Perez was doing Avengers, he had Wasp show up with a different costume every issue. Mostly put with this issue, we just have X-Force take on the Mental Liberation Front. That's mostly put exactly. And we also see an early appearance here by Strife. I think this is his debut, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Strife become a recurring villain in these issues. And look, here's Domino with two shoulder pads. I would think Lin Carr would poke fun of this in his review. But this issue also was noteworthy for the debut of this character, J.W. Bridge. What does J.W. stand for? George Washington. Yes, Rob Liefeld named this character after an actual bridge. This would be his debut, and he remained in comic books until Rick Remender killed him off in the Blood miniseries in 2009. Actually, it was like 2010 it came out. So, this guy was around for about 20 years before they killed him off. And here he's working with Nick Fury, but Nick Fury's not technically in these issues. We kind of have like the first thing here. It's kind of called Weapon X. Oh, they can call Wolverine? No! Because issue 2 we see the first appearance of Garrison Kane. And the second appearance of Deadpool. Yep. Liefeld brought back Deadpool. Also, aside from the first appearance of Kane, we do see the first appearance of the Yellow Speed Troubles. According to Fabian Caesar, that was actually his idea. Because I asked him about that, because I know Liefeld was taking a lot of credit for Deadpool, but the Yellow Speed Troubles, that was all the Caesar's idea. And this issue here is debut of that. So, Garrison Kane is the second person to call him as a Weapon X. And, well, this is just early appearance by him. He's in a lot of these issues. And look, Cable in a brand new look. Liefeld basically, you could say Liefeld not being inconsistent with the looks, but you take inspiration from George Perez. Yep, so. And then we have the Juggernaut show up at the end of issue 2. Yep. Which, of course, they find in issue 3. With all appearance by Banshee's daughter, Teresa. Yeah, the reason why that Banshee's here, not Banshee, Juggernaut's here, because he was summoned by Black Tom Cassidy. And then, of course, we have Spider-Man show up here. And that leads into issue 16 of Spider-Man, where he teams the X-Force. Okay, before I continue, I have to basically explain a little backstory related to this two-part crossover known as Sabotage. Liefeld brought it up in his podcast. He had an episode whole dedicated this two-parter. According to him, this initially was Todd McFarlane's idea to do this. He did this as a way to have an exit on his run for Spider-Man, where the book was taken over by Eric Larson for the next issue. And this has been planned out for a few months, and they actually wanted this out in August, but, like, here's the thing. There are people at Marvel who actually did not want this to happen. No, seriously. They did not want this to happen, for reasons. So, this story was delayed to November because of, well, because other stuff going on, and of course they had to delay it because of that. Yes, the X-Force book was something that Liefeld did want to do, but the story was all Todd McFarlane's idea because he wanted to end his run on Spider-Man. Now, this issue was not collected in that Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane trade for some reason. Yeah, I'm not really sure why it was not there, because he did work on this issue. Because if you read the issue, you would mistakenly assume 15 was his final issue. Oh no, 16 was his final issue. And here's also one of the reasons why that they object this crossover. The whole thing is running inside. According to Liefeld, the reason why it's like this, because originally, Hawkeye number 5, volume number 5, he actually the whole issue that way. And of course, they had to cut up what he did because the editor was a complete idiot. Like, the way Liefeld described him, he was a jerk. Really big jerk. Where the guy was like very old school, would yell at you. It's like, here's the thing. Liefeld had already left DC Comics at that point in time when he turned that in. Because he got his voucher from Renee Westchester, I think her name is. She's a long-term editor at DC. She also edited anything at Marvel, editing She-Hulk, where he turned it in, got a voucher, and then he went off to Marvel to do his run on the Mutants. But of course, basically, the editor of that book wanted him to come back to basically fix this. Because here's the thing. The whole idea of having the comic inside was not originally Liefeld's idea to do this. For that book. That was actually the idea of Eric Larson. Yes, a guy who we later formed Image with in 1982. So, the reason why issue 5 turned out the way it did was not Liefeld's fault. That was not his fault. I mean, yeah, that you could say that was the reason why he left DC. He left DC because he got an offer to go to Marvel. Because people at Marvel really wanted him over there. And he ended up doing like 14 issues of New Mutants and doing this. He also did some fill-ins for some other books. New Mutants, he did mention that he actually was delaying his start of the book because he was just doing all this fill-in stuff. And what he actually wanted to do was a version of Young Avengers. That, of course, would come to play in the mid-2000s, but he got X-Force instead. Yep. So, this, I think, was the... in terms of Spider-Man taking on Juggernaut, I believe this was the third or fourth time he fought him at this point in time. I mean, yes. So the whole issue was done on its side. So, you read this thing, you read like this. And it's like this not only for this issue, but also for the X-Force issue as well. Where here it is. So it's basically the whole thing. Now, at Marvel, apparently he was able to get away with this not really big issue at all, but at DC, this was a no-no. Kind of weird, basically. So, it's a really good story. That's just all I think anyways. And then Spider-Man goes off, and then, of course, the very next 2 issues, we deal with the return of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. This version is done by Toad with Pyro, Sharon, and the Blob. And of course, they work with the Marauders. The Morlocks, which I'm thinking, wait, aren't the Morlocks all dead when they killed back in the 80s, like 7 years prior to this? I guess they didn't. I'm not sure. So, we have a bunch of training stuff going on here. Basically, like casually, and of course, we have return J.W. Bridge in here. And here's Rob Liefeld's take on Nick Fury. It's a not bad design for Nick Fury by Liefeld. Also, you're probably thinking, who's the red hair guy with the sunglasses? Henry Peter Geinrich, who is currently dead in the comics now. Yeah, apparently Al Ewing decided to have him die in the final issue of his run for Sword. How? Being shoved out of an airlock. I'm not kidding about that. He got shoved into airlock out into space. And this was done by Abigail Brand. Yep. Yeah, and Sharon's here. And of course, he apparently dies in the issue, but don't worry, he comes back. Yep, so more crazy stuff here. I still think it's some really good stuff here. And of course, the War in 54 comes in here, where, yeah, for some reason, the book decided to cross over with Wolverine. The reason why, because Shatterstar made a guest appearance, so they had, I think the season probably was writing the book at the time, so he probably included that in here because the season wrote the book, and Shatterstar was a character from X-Force, so we have Stripe building up basically stuff with him. We also have this really interesting sequence here where you have Cable bathing with Domino, except, oh, is Domino naked? Nope, she's wearing some suit. And oh boy, there's stuff about this Domino that apparently Liefeld decided to do with her before he left the book. So, we have more crazy stuff here with Sharon. This goes on for like a few issues with him. Oh, by the way, we have a guest star issue here. Done by Mike Mignola, yeah. You start off with basically the first page by Liefeld, and then switch over to this. This is Mike Mignola's artwork, yes. The guy who does Hellboy did an issue of X-Force. And I thoroughly enjoyed this. And then we switch back to Liefeld for the end of the issue. So he did like 2 pages of his own comic book. Yep. And then issue 9, which by the way, this cover here is very infamous, basically. This cover has been, I've seen this cover reused a lot for covers for X-Force. If you're curious about the cover for the trade here, I believe that's the cover for one of the issues in here, but it's not the final issue. So, we have, I think, it's not Boom, it's actually Sam is injured. We have more stuff with Sharon here. And look how Liefeld draws the Blob. Yes. Yeah, so it's like these issues here are just X-Force versus the Brotherhood for like next several issues. Because why not? And then Stripe shows up. We begin the story where they fight the Externals. Well, not the Eternals, the Externals. Yep. So, yeah, then this issue basically brings a shocker, to say the least. I think this was his 3rd appearance. We use the return of Deadpool. And it reveals that Domino is not Domino. You're probably thinking, what? Yeah. And then we have the X-Force annual, the first of... This, I kid you not, the first of 9 annuals. Yes, 9 annuals. This first annual was released in 92. They did 2 more annuals with the numbering called number 2, number 3. And then with annual, when it came out in 1975, the annuals were retitled to Cable and X-Force for about 3 years. And then the Cable name was dropped. And I think it was X-Force basically became a regular title for an annual in 1999. And I think they dropped afterwards because X-Force had released about 1 more annual afterwards. The last annual I could think of that came out for X-Force, I believe, was when Chris Yost and Craig Kyle worked on the book when Wolverine's Strike Team was part of the book. Yeah, basically it's whole thing with... Now, the whole thing with this crossover, which is called Shattershot, it relates stuff with the Mojo universe. That's most of what the first major story is. Dan Slott does backup stories here. Yep. Yes, he does. Well, the first one here is not this is about Gavin Curtis. This focuses on Leech, WizKid, and Artie. Yeah, the younger kids who life had nothing really much to do with the creation, but. And afterwards, we have the Dan Slott story by Sal Ferreira. Yeah, this is a Dan Slott. Yeah, Dan Slott writes X-Force. Yep, which is basically them recapping what happened in the issues. And then we move on to issue 11, which review, Domino's Secret. Yes, Liefeld decided to do a retcon of his own book. Where apparently this Domino is not really Domino, but it's actually Copycat. Yes, a shapeshifter. Yep, so they basically deal with that for the next few issues. Basically, the whole thing with Domino. And this basically ends the run of Rob Liefeld on X-Force because this storyline with Domino. This pretty much consumes the last, 6 issues of this run. And that's pretty much the whole run. And of course, they do find the real Domino. She joins the team. And Veronica disappears. She died at one point, then she came back. But this book is really good. I thoroughly enjoy this. Now, I'm sure Linkara, if you guys hands on this book, you're probably like, this book sucks. Because he's not a fan of Liefeld. Me personally, I do enjoy this book. I thought the book was really good. I give this book roughly 9 out of 10. And with that, I've technically... Oh yeah, by the way, the very next issue, by the way, Fabian the Seas will be the sole writer of this book into issue 42. Yes, when Jeff Loeb takes the book briefly, and then we have John Francis Moore and a few other writers. The last writer of this book was Peter Mulligan. Now, next few issues, I have reviewed those already. And you're probably thinking, where have I reviewed the next few issues? Execution Song, 5 years ago. So with this, I reviewed the first 19 issues of the series. But also in the case of Liefeld, when it comes to his stuff at Marvel, I reviewed a small chunk of his stuff. Or it could be almost the entire thing. I'm not really sure here. Let me take a look here. Let's see if I can find it here. Because this book in particular just covers his whole run for X-Force. I think I've covered his stuff for... so for stuff at Marvel, I think probably there's not... for his original era for Marvel, there's probably not a lot left to cover for him. Not really. For writing-wise, I think the only thing I have to go, because he did work on this book, actually. Let's see. I covered his Avengers, Captain America stuff. I've covered one of the issues, one of his New Mutants issues. I've covered I'd say about 50% of the stuff he did at Marvel. I'd say for his first era at Marvel. I've covered a small chunk of it so far. The only thing I've covered fully is probably his run for X-Force. Yep. That's something to cover fully. There is also his run for New Mutants. I think I may have covered these issues. I'm not sure. I think it may have been Cable and New Mutants, if I'm not mistaken. I think I may have covered it there. But the issues that come afterwards, I mostly have covered that one. Let's see if I can find it here. Because I think I may have covered those issues already. Let's see. Yes. Yeah, I've covered that already, so... Yeah, so it was X-Force, Cable, and New Mutants. Yeah, I've covered that one, which means that I've covered most. Yeah, I covered this book already. And number 5, yes. So for New Mutants, for issues wise, I've covered most of it so far, except for the last 2 issues and one annual. Yep, so for his first era at Marvel, I'd say right now, I've covered most of it, but not all of it. I think the only thing left to go for him is just his X-Factor issues. One issue, let's see. Let me check this issue of Kenny X-Men here, because I think I may have covered this one already. $245. Let's see. I was thinking I've covered it before. I'm not sure where. Actually, I've not covered that issue. No, so the only thing left to cover for him is just for his first era at Marvel is just the issues from X Factor, the one issue Kenny X-Men did, one annual for New Mutants. And I think like the only thing else left to go for his first era at Marvel is probably also his run for Marvel Comics Presents, and that's pretty much it. All right, now moving on to a different book, we have Elektra, Black, White, and Blood. Yes, this is the treasure edition of this book. The book is big. So in this trade here, by the way, this only collects the entire 4-issue limited series. Now, her getting this, like in the case of Deadpool and Carnage, makes total sense. She's a violent character. These are your stories. Issue 1, we have Red Dawn by Charles Shaw and Mark Bagley. Not the Devil by Lionel Romero. The Crimson Thread by Dick Sabe and Simone Dermon. Cut and Run Them by Peter David and Greg Land. This is probably the only non-Spider book these two worked on together. Vernetti is on by Al Ewing and Rod Reese. Yaki is Greg Smallwood. Split is on by Indecenti, which I believe this is their second Elektra story she's worked on. That story actually took place during the Frank Miller run. I think it was just after the Flash events, issue 168. With Federico Sabati in the artwork. With a Passion, written, drawn, and colored by Paula Cusa. Weapon of Choice, David Purpose. That's interesting. Yeah, I think this is one of his very few non... this is probably another book I've covered for him. This is probably the second book covered, and he covers something he did for Marvel, aside from Seven Avengers, with Danilo Barrett on the artwork. Powers Can't Be Comprehended by Matthew Robertsburg, Albert Albuquerque, Assassin Poch Paquito. That's actually... I think the story I covered partially already in the Demon Wars trade. Ryan reviews by Kevin Eastman and Freddie Williams. Yeah. Interesting, Kevin Eastman does Elektra because the book she came from was Lou's inspiration for Turtles. These are just a series of stories for Elektra. I do recommend this if you're a fan of Elektra. All the stories here are really good. None of them are bad. I really enjoy the story Split because I really enjoy the artwork of that one. Split. That one was done by Indecenti. That was a really good one. There was one I really enjoyed the artwork for that one. It was one with TV screens. I kind of wish this was done as regular interior artwork. Excuse me. There was one before that one. It was Vernetti. Yeah, this is the one done by Greg Smallwood. Yeah, I love this artwork by Greg Smallwood. Yeah, this artwork here I could definitely see as basically interior artwork for some current books. I don't know if he has those, but just damn good stuff here. Nothing about this book. I do recommend this book for adults and people also are fans of Elektra because this book is very violent. I give this book a 9 out of 10. Alright, so that's it, particular review. Next up, in our comment corner, and that'll be it for a bit. Okay, thanks for you. Bye.